For 5 days, a century of Wall Street history simply vanished. It began not with a bang, but with a whisper of illiquidity. Stearns, an institution that had weathered every financial storm since 1923, found itself drowning in a sea of suspicion and fear, its very existence evaporating in a matter of hours. Founded by Joseph Ainsley Bear, Robert B. Stearns, and Harold May in the Roaring Twenties, Stearns built its reputation on aggressive trading and a relentless, almost swashbuckling culture. They were the outsiders, the risk-takers who thrived where others hesitated. By the early 2000s, Stearns stood as one of Wall Street's most formidable independent investment banks. Its trading desks were legendary, its profits enviable, and its belief in its own resilience absolute. But beneath that confidence, vulnerabilities were forming. The seeds of its destruction were sown in the booming housing market, specifically within its mortgage-backed securities division. Stearns became a dominant player, packaging subprime loans into complex instruments, earning massive fees along the way. Two hedge funds managed by Stearns, the High-Grade Structured Credit Strategies Fund and the High-Grade Structured Credit Strategies Enhanced Fund, were heavily invested in these mortgage-backed securities. They promised high returns, but came with unseen risks. As early as 2007, the housing market began to falter. Defaults on subprime mortgages surged. The value of the complex securities held by Stearns funds plummeted. But the bank, in its characteristic defiance, initially dismissed the warning signs. In June 2007, the Enhanced Fund, with $16 billion in assets, began to collapse. Stearns was forced to bail out the fund with a $2 billion loan. It was a massive financial commitment and a public admission of distress. Other major banks, sensing weakness, began to pull back their lending to Stearns. The interbank lending market, the lifeblood of investment banks, started to seize up for them. This was the first major open loop, the beginning of their liquidity crisis. Chairman and CEO James Kane, a prominent figure with a passion for bridge, was often absent during these critical months, reportedly playing in tournaments. This leadership vacuum exacerbated an already dire situation, fostering a sense of drift. By early March 2008, rumors swirled. Counterparties, fearing Stearns couldn't meet its obligations, began demanding more collateral or simply refusing to trade. The speed of the contagion was unprecedented. Confidence was evaporating by the hour. On March 13th, the situation became critical. Stearns informed the Federal Reserve that it was facing a severe liquidity crunch and might not be able to meet its commitments the following day. This was a direct plea for intervention. The Federal Reserve, along with the Treasury Department, recognized the systemic risk. If Stearns failed, it could trigger a domino effect, bringing down other major financial institutions. The stakes were incredibly high. A deal was hastily brokered. On Friday, March 14th, J.P. Morgan Chase, backed by a $30 billion Federal Reserve guarantee, agreed to provide emergency funding to Stearns for 28 days. It was a temporary reprieve, a band-aid on a gaping wound. Over that weekend, the situation deteriorated further. Markets remained deeply skeptical. J.P. Morgan, upon reviewing Stearns' books, found the situation far worse than anticipated. The original emergency funding was simply not enough. By Sunday, March 16th, a new, more drastic deal emerged. J.P. Morgan Chase would acquire Stearns for a mere $2 per share, a staggering drop from its peak of over $170 just a year prior. This was effectively a fire sale, an obliteration of shareholder value. The $2 per share offer was later raised to $10 per share after shareholder outcry, but the message was clear. A century-old Wall Street icon had collapsed. Its aggressive culture, its faith in complex instruments, and its leadership's missteps had caught up. The failure of Stearns was a chilling prelude to the larger financial crisis that would engulf the world just months later. It demonstrated the fragility of the financial system and the devastating speed with which confidence can erode. It was a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most established institutions are vulnerable when risk management falters and market confidence vanishes. The legacy of Bear Stearns remains a stark lesson